Hi, this is Revekka, and you're listening to Peace and Good Wealth.
Broadcasting from Park Avenue in New York City. Brought to you by Global Wealth Office at Nest Seekers International and Classique Moderne. This is Peace and Good Wealth. Good afternoon. Hello, good listeners. This is Loy Carlos welcoming you back to the show. So we talk a lot about how technology has pulled us apart and how we're more connected than ever, yet feel more isolated. But today's guest is doing something different. She's using code to get us back into the spirit of things, no pun intended. She's a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree, a former Bloomberg software engineer, and now the co-founder and CEO of Dion. So if you haven't heard of Dion yet, the press is calling it the Venmo for drinks, and we're going to go back to that later. But it's much more than just a transaction. It's an invite-only ecosystem that turns digital gestures into real-world social currency. So whether it's a celebratory martini at Zero Bond or a sunset cocktail in Casa Cipriani or a morning matcha for a friend in Dubai, it's all over. Dion is now live in New York City, I think, in Miami, in Dubai, and Mexico City, with a massive wait list of people eager to get in. So just in time for Valentine's 2026, they're launching major partnerships with Liftonic, The Pack, and Sartianos. Please welcome to the podcast, Revekka Palaiologou.
Perfect. Thank you for
so
having
much.
me.
So, Revekka, let's talk about the beginning first. So, let's talk to us about what Dion is, why, and why now. So let's start about what, so people understand what it is.
Perfect. Dion started as a social platform where the way to connect with someone was around intentional gestures. So essentially, sending someone a real drink that is redeemed in a real place, like the very good examples that you gave. So it all started because throughout the years, as you said, I've been in tech my whole life. And you notice that technology brings us closer together, and you cannot defy that. But it also sometimes isolates us a lot. So in my previous experience, I used to work at Bloomberg, like mission critical systems, very financial impact and very heavy. But I was more drawn to actually doing something about social and how people connect. And it started from a simple observation that the digital first move hasn't been evolved since 2012, where actually Tinder invented the double opt-in. Like you swipe someone, they swipe, that means something, and it changed the ecosystem. So since then, nothing has happened. And now more than ever, you see the data and you see that people try to connect. So they will send someone a DM, they will send someone, or they would, I see it in myself, they will send me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and I will never reply. Or if I'm out, someone might approach me and come up to me and talk to me, but I will never engage. But I noticed throughout the years that one of the most iconic gestures is in our social culture is buying someone a drink, a friend for the birthday, a person you want to meet at the bar, someone you admire work-wise, and you are like, let me buy you a coffee, let's discuss this. And it usually brings results. So you have to engage. It's not about the drink itself, but it's about the social contract that it creates. So when my co-founder and I were discussing on what can we do to make people connect in a more meaningful way and also push them, to actually meet, to interact and leave the house in a sense and connect in real life, we were like, we don't have to invent a new behavior. Let's digitize one that already exists and brings results. So this is how we started. We're like, okay, let's digitize this. It's a lot of fun. I also use it for my friends, etc. And then we realized that because we saw the traction and we saw the data, and now we're seeing this taking off, that actually it becomes much more than buying a drink. And it becomes about a platform where instead of monetizing and focusing on attention and videos and whatever is happening in content, it monetizes, it focuses on intention. So we don't have like free interactions, like, send a DM or something. So you might approach less amount of people, but you actually care more about them. There is something that you want to get out of this conversation. And we see our data, and we see that from the drink sent, 52% of those people end up having a meaningful discussion. Meaningful discussion is usually more than 10 messages in social networks, which if you compare it with other social networks like Instagram and LinkedIn, which is from 5 to 7%, is like huge. If you compare it with dating apps, like the dating apps response is less than 1% now, so it's like insane. So yes, this is how it started. We wanted to build something more intentional and something that also connects the digital world with something that has a real world presence. Like it's a real drink. You have to get out there and invite the other person with you sometimes.
So how well would you need to know, so I'm much older. And so the generation, that I grew up in socially, we did different things, right? So, buying somebody a drink, it's not a new concept. It's a very traditional, old concept. But we did it differently before, because before you had to be present in that space and have some sense of also kind of like the energy of the other person. So if you're across the room, you're just not randomly buying somebody, you kind of like try to sense first whether it's there's some sort of connection there, and then you buy them a drink, and then maybe you get into a conversation, and that's it. And then come the next generation after me, which is they're not even in bars anymore. They're not even in cafes anymore. They go through and swipe through an app, and that's how they meet, and that's it, which is zero connection whatsoever, which is pretty much destroyed at that time. The bar culture, right? Because nobody was going in there anymore, and et cetera. And now here's sort of like another evolution of that. So how well do you need to know? It's a closed system, right? It's not like a publicly accessible. So I can't just like randomly, if I didn't know you, send you without you being part of Dion itself, right?
You can do that. We allow you to actually select, because this is part of the gifting mechanism. So we allow you to actually select someone from your contacts or the drink and the venue, and the app generates a link, and I can send it to you over email, iMessage, WhatsApp. So in this case, it's more about gifting to someone that you already know. We see, for example, people using it for birthdays, anniversaries. Instead of calling the place, like I used to do, you just send them a drink, they have 30 days, it's like a gift to redeem it. If you don't know the other person, we actually sit in between of the cases that you mentioned. So, of course, you can see the profiles like it happens in any other social or dating app. And if someone catches up your attention, you can send them the drink. Though it's a bit better in a sense than real life, because it's amazing when people do it in real life, and I've been the receiver or the sender. But, it takes some guts,
courage,
yes, to actually go to the other person, because there is always the possibility of rejection. On Dion, if the other person doesn't want to engage, we send you a refund and you have your Dion credit to treat someone else. So at least it has, you don't need to have so much courage to break the ice. But we also support geolocation-based discovery. So if you are at a specific place, let's say you are at Cipriani, you can see who else is there real time, and you can still send them a drink. And we see that happening, and it's nice, because they will send users many times, they will send me screenshots or success stories, etc. And they'll say, oh, I saw she was at the same venue like me. I sent her a drink, she replied. So the next message was, okay, let's meet at the bar so we can, it's like a pre-game in a sense.
Yeah. So the, how much, I guess one of the questions, there are two things, I would see that there are two separate ways to think about it. There's a social personal level, and there's a social professional level. So professional level, I would think it's a lot easier. I see somebody that I've met before. It's a client that I've I had 5 years ago. I'd forgotten, and they're there, and I could send them a drink, easy peasy. That's it. Or probably it could be somebody that as you travel through the world and go networking, you've met them once or twice, but you really don't know them. And this is another way to sort of like reintroduce yourself. That's easy enough. On the personal level, my question is, and I would assume there's some sort of a gender gap as well. Is there a gender gap between, and that's number one. And number two, when is it nice and when is it kind of creepy?
I'll tell you, there is a gender gap in a sense, but what is maybe more relevant is what is the intention. Because on Dion, we have set up this functionality, let's say. So when you send someone a drink, you select what is your intention. It could be dating, it could be networking, and it could be socializing. So depends. So it's like as creepy as it is to get a DM, because keep in mind, it's not like you are going to be in the venue and someone will appear and bring you the drink, which would be intrusive. And this is a very good comment because it's so new, the concept for people. So sometimes they're like, what does this mean? Does this mean that the waiter will appear while I'm halfway through my meal and bring me this drink? No, it's like a gift. So essentially you have a voucher for a dirty martini or a matcha latte, and you have 30 days to go to the venue and actually claim it. So you have the option to decline something, so it's not intrusive, and to actually go and claim it whenever you want. It's like, yes, any other gifting gesture. So that's one. And the second thing is we see the data in the transactions, we call them, but the interactions, let's say, on the user level. And what we see is that people, 60% of them, they will use it mostly to break the ice with new people. So it's not necessarily someone you know. For example, now we're going viral to the universities because we hired an intern from NYU and she joined Dion, and we have a special functionality that we released that if you are under 21, you can only see coffees. There is zero alcoholic because we have to, you have to be respectful.
Although coming from NYU, that's probably not an enforceable thing, but okay.
No. We are very strict about this. We have to. So she saw many people from companies. She wants to work in consulting that she wants to interview, and she was actually using LinkedIn to approach them and send DMs and requests. So she started sending them coffees. Like, here is a coffee at Matcha Full, this is my CV, I would love to work, do you have summer internships, do you have this and that? So she started going around to NYU and saying, guys, I found out, because you're a student, you just want to find out your next step. So she was like, guys, I have found out the hack. I sent 6 coffees. 5 of those people actually met me for a coffee meeting, and I started having conversations about work. So now we have a huge wait list of NYU because all the students, they want to come in and they want to start connecting with new people, not someone because they want to, do the networking. Of course, we have so many people that they see someone they like, they want to date, and they will send them a more,
But I think it's so that's why I think, so the other question is there a gender, it's not just a gender gap, but is there also an age gap? Because in college, right, you're exposed to so many people at the same time, more or less your age, with different backgrounds and different experiences, and you're it's almost overwhelming to kind of like navigate that, and you have like a small group of friends, but you get to meet so many people, and so breaking that ice with like having coffee, it's a normal thing. It's an easier thing than perhaps, let's say, a 60-year-old in a sort of like social environment, trying to break the ice with more with newer people. It's a completely different situation. But the question is, with the people who are receiving it, do they get an idea of what your intention is based on that? They do.
Yes. You send, it's like a chip that you select on the app. So you say, is it socializing? Is it networking? Is it dating? And you can also leave a message, like writing a note on what you want. So then you have the option to accept or decline. So it's like getting a DM on Instagram, or let's say getting a digital rose on Hinge. But it's the only social platform that there is actually value for the receiver. And this is why we have seen that it really does well and it really, beats the ghosting mentality because you have skin in the game. So on Hinge, let's say a dating app, if I send you a digital rose, okay, yes, I pay to unlock this connection, but you as a receiver, there is no difference. Nothing changes. On Dion, I actually have something that has a real world value. So there is this human psychology of reciprocity. So people are actually more inclined to reply and engage.
You're now in various locations, some of them outside of the U.S., in Mexico City and in Dubai. Are there cultural differences?
I feel like this is something that you learn in tech really fast when you launch your second market. Every market is different. Even inside the US, the two that we have, because now we're going to launch pretty much everywhere, even inside the US, it's like a different, completely story. So you have to adjust the playbook and you have to be very cautious and, understand the local deviation.
Culture, right.
Yes, and the culture.
So because generosity is... ideally, everyone is generous, and they could give a gift, to people, and it's part of the sort of like the social fabric of society, right? So that's why we give gifts in Christmas or some sort of any other holiday, whether it's religious or non-religious, Valentine's Day, for instance, right? Or Mother's Day or Father's Day or whatever it is. Part of the culture is giving a gift because. You're opening yourself up to somebody, and you're showing them a gesture of whether it's a connection or affection or etc. Right? I wonder how much of that though there are certain people, and how do you protect the ones how do you protect that sort of like pure idea from the people who would like to abuse it and sort of like. Oh, I'm going to use this. I'm going to show all these people, but they're not necessarily good characters or a good fit for that type of community.
Till now, we haven't faced that because it's invitation only. So this is one of the main reasons, among others, that we said, look, let's check the network dynamics. Let's try to understand how people use it because, when you build in tech, you have all these ideas in your mind and you're like, you think about yourself. So like, this is how it's going to be used and it's going to change the world and I'm going to do this. But usually users surprise you. So this is why and this is a very big transition that you do from when you start working in a big company like I did and move into a startup. Because in big company, there is already product market fit, the users are there, we know their behaviors. So you have a very long timeline and you can release things like, you plan ahead, months. In a startup, you plan ahead for like a week because you have to actually roll things out and you have to see what people think. So this is how we started. We created an invitation-only community. We're like, okay, let's start playing around, see what people love, etc. Till now, the Dion as it is, because now we are releasing Dion 2.0 that is going to evolve a lot. But the Dion as it is now, it's a curated community. So the thing that we take into account, the most important thing is where do you come from, in a sense, meaning who referred you, not the originality of your. So building on that, the experience we have so far is really, really good. I mean, the user feedback is really great. We see the data. People come back to us. They talk to us about actual meeting, etc. I mean, as this scales, of course, there will be behaviors like in every other app in the world that you cannot control. But you try to guide users through the experience. So a very easy thing is like you have reports. So, we have alerts on everything. If you come to me, because users, they want to interact with you, and we have a concierge to make sure that they actually feel comfortable sharing. Users come to you and they would tell you, look, it happens. I didn't have a good experience with this venue, for example, which we cannot do much, but they will be like, oh, the drink, I didn't like it. We're like, guys, we're so sorry. Thank you for letting us know. We'll take a look into that. But this is a venue thing. We cannot help. So as you grow, you have many reports and many things coming in. You always hope that it's going to be only good things.
Right. So in terms of growth, you're growing it seems like very carefully and cautiously. And it's almost a very measured sort of way, and which is admirable, because in this day and age, we want to explode in the market. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to get a startup to you either make it big very, very quickly, or you die very, very, very quickly, right? And so the question is what are you anticipating? What are your targets in terms of growth?
Every startup looks at different unit economics, and this is what defines the business. A very good unit economic, and the one that we're actually focusing, is the monthly active users, MAUs, and what is the GMV, what is the generated value from those users. Our unit economics on that aspect are super good because, as you said, the community is curated. We have very high value customers, which allow us to have really good data. But as you said, you cannot always continue to build in a closed loop or a closed community, because you will grow really, really slow. So this brought us to Dion 2.0, like we call it, and we're going to launch in the next weeks. Because as we were building our own community, our own curated community, we realized that there are many communities out there, from your yoga group, your run club, your alumni network, that they might exist in WhatsApp groups, in newsletters, Discord, whatever, but they don't have a way for their members to interact in a digital environment. And even if they do exist in a WhatsApp group, it's a completely different use. So you don't have deep profiles. If I see you on a WhatsApp group, I'll see your avatar and I'll see your name, but how do I know what, your interests, where you work, your web site, what you do? So we realized that community leaders start coming to us because they would see Dion and they would we would love to have this product to actually include our community. So, discussion after discussion, now we are launching Dion Circles, and essentially we give a digital space to all the different communities out there for the members to connect and interact in a ring-fenced environment. So, we have, for example, the NYU Tech Club. We have some paddle clubs, some run clubs, some material, one of the biggest community now in Mexico City. It's thousands of people. Many, many, many different communities we have in the pipeline to onboard. And essentially, Dion grows not by individual, but through communities that could have hundreds or thousands of people. But we still manage to, keep the networks together, because for us this is very important. So, but instead of growing one network at the time, we grow many different networks in parallel.
Right. So different multiple ecosystems within the larger ecosystem itself.
But we want to keep the shared context, which is the shared identity.
Because otherwise it defeats the purpose of the whole social thing. You just have clicks basically in different places, and they stay with each other. So Colin, are you taking notes here? Because this is going to be on the part of our marketing in the future. We're sending stuff. But here's the other part. And I could also think that there's also a probably a philanthropic component to this. Because I'm thinking if there are people who, if you're going to, let's say, a Starbucks, who pay forward, to pay for the person behind them, and then that person pays for the person behind them, and it's sort of like part of a thing. And I could think of many ways that this could be used philanthropically to send a message to to other people in the future as well, within sort of like a specific community. As well. Now, are there particular people who you feel sort of, or different types of people that are more inclined to use it, and the people who are sort of like less, not less inclined, but more, not as, they don't easily adapt to sort of like the idea of this? Who is the biggest supporter, member, what's their profile like?
It's evolving now because we are doing an evolution, but essentially it's a social app. So people that use it are people that want to expand their social circle. They want to make meaningful connections. But essentially anyone could be now a user. In the beginning it wasn't. In the beginning it was like only people, that are social, they go out, they want to meet new people. Now, Dion becomes a place where you can meet and connect with all the people from your different circles. The people from your run club, the people from your studio, the people from your podcast. Or now we have celebrities that they create their own fan club there, so they can interact with the fans. So it becomes a much broader ecosystem, and it's very important. But still, the reason why we do Dion and what is behind it is connect with someone intentionally. And this is why we also care a lot about the shared context, the shared identity. Otherwise, it would be just any other app that anyone could go in, and it would be a huge network. In our case, we are very particular about creating the networks because we want you to feel comfortable that, not only you will chat with the other person, but actually get out there and meet them, which is very important. I mean,
which is, when we talk, we have so many private clubs, around the world. And what I dislike about these private clubs is that it's not a social club at all. Because you stick to the same people that you know. You really don't talk to anybody else. It's a status symbol much more than it is a social club. Whereas literally, you could be in a bar and in a hotel and be able to speak to somebody, anywhere in the world and be social with them, which you wouldn't be in a private club, which makes no sense, And so I could see how Dion, it's like pulls you back into. Yes, this is convenience for you, but the whole idea here is for you to be able to connect. So it's not just about sending, drinks. It's about, if you have no intention of connecting with them, sending drinks doesn't make,
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense. Now, what financially, what are we talking about? Is there a membership? How do you, fee and all of that stuff?
For now, it's found in memberships, so we don't charge, but there are different elements there. So there is a service fee. When you send someone a drink, actually there is a percentage kept by the app. Dion has also a very strong business part on it. So we work with many beverage and other brands because they want to actually use Dion to advertise in a very, high concentrated community. So we also have this B2B element going on. And of course, there is breakage. So because essentially it's a gifting business. If I send you a drink and you never reply, you have some days to unlock it. If you don't reply, I get my money back as credit to use it on someone else. But if you do reply and you never go to redeem it, which happens, it's not the majority of the cases, but it happens, then you actually, you never go to redeem it, then it's called breakage. We keep the money. So the business model is strong. We're happy.
Well, that's like a gym membership where you pay the membership but you never go. That would be me. Same thing with the drink. I probably would accept it and then forget about it and then realize that I never.
It has
but
to be.
So the other question: how do people know what to send?
That's a very good question, but you put it in your profile. So this is the idea about it. And I'll come back to your point about members club, because this was actually for me one of the things that kept me thinking about this. I used to live in London for many years, and I was part of this members club. And I have this saying that I always used to say that, yes, you are part of it, but you end up going with your friends and living with your friends.
Yes.
And you can never connect. And if someone tries to connect with you, at least in my case, I would be, why are you trying to talk to me?
It's creepy, right?
It's a bit creepy, yeah. You just see a face,
Yes.
there is no substance. So when we started, we were like, okay, we want, and this happens now on Dion, you can see who else is at the same place like you, but you can see the deep profile. You can see where they work, what they do. So if you end up walking up to them or texting them or whatever, sending them a drink, actually, there is a reason why, not just because you, sat in the table next to them, which is a bit weird. What was the question? I lost train of thought.
I'm older than you. I'm the one that forgets all the questions. So no, the question is, how do you find out which drink, to send?
They put their favorite in the profile. So you would put that my favorite venue is that and my favorite drink is this. Of course, people change, but usually they send that.
Mm-hmm. And, well, there are a couple of things that are going on in my head. One is like, there's a movie to be made on this. So that's an idea. The second thing is there maybe a plan later on to have like Dion as an actual venue itself?
We are trying to become venue and operational agnostic. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to be tied with infrastructure, etc. Mm-hmm. We want to become a facilitator of sorts. So essentially, we use other people's infrastructure to make sure that people connect and they can actually meet, etc.
What is in your world, in your ideal world? What is the when people have this, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What are people doing? What is the vision of how this when everything is working? What's happening? Can you paint me a picture of what that looks like in your mind?
Look, at this point, we're creating a new category because this behavior online doesn't exist at all. So we have to actually educate people and, I'll explain to them what it is because there is nothing to relate. So there is a learning curve and make sure that they can actually put it in use. So in what I'm seeing this going and what is happening is that, it becomes the default way for people to connect with new people intentionally. It becomes the default way for people to celebrate and to actually, do social discovery, no matter what that is. Is it online? Because you actually see, you search. I want to meet tech people that live in New York and they work in this specific, let's say, company. Or is it a place-based location, discovery, sorry. Like, I'm going to this gym, I want to connect with other people from my gym. I'm going to this club, whatever, not anymore in my case, but I want to connect with other people from this club. So it's all about meaningful connections for us. So, 5 years down, I want this, I want to meet someone. Dion is the default place that I will find this person and have a very effective way to connect with them.
Or if you're traveling and
yes,
you're moving to a different place. Let's say you're moving to Dubai. Like right now, I meet 2 people or 3 people in Dubai that I always see. But if you're permanently moving there and you'd like to build your community faster than literally physically talking to each one of them, which could be very overwhelming, right? This could be a way, let's say, hey, this person I know works in my company. I recognize them, and they're in that sort of like community, and you could say, hey, maybe we could have a cup of coffee or whatever it is, or send them a drink. I think that's that's really that's an interesting thing. A couple of questions. One of the things that keeps coming up is do you have data on what is the most sent item?
Spicy margarita.
Oh my gosh.
We love it. Yes. Really? People love it. I think tequila is having a moment.
Yeah. Well, it's gone. But the reality is, though, there is no season for margarita.
I'm a margarita person.
Yeah,
what can I say?
Spice. And so it's etiquette wise. What is in your mind? What is if you were advising me? I'm beginning to start the app. What's a good message that's non-creepy, that's also meaningful, that what's a message I should send if it's like an intro to somebody that I don't know. I may know just sort of like peripherally, but not exactly. What message would that be?
That's a very good question, because now we have started incorporating some AI functionalities to help you with that, but help you like hints. We don't want to, we want to keep the personal touch. The most common and effective message we have seen on the app is, I love that you also work at Goldman Sachs, or I love that you like tennis, or I don't know, Casa Cipriani is also my favorite venue. they send a drink and they're like, let's also grab a drink in real life. They are Friday, 8 p.m. So this is the most common. People skip the small talk and very easily they actually jump to action, which we like. This is the most effective and common actually message we see on the app. So I suggest with that, explain why you actually want to connect with this person. Because you already put your attention.
Very, very
and set
directly.
Up the date.
Well, it's interesting because you said that you have skin in the game, right? And I think that's really interesting because if I'm paying, for something and I'm sending it to somebody else, right? Now is not the time to think about it, about being shy, right? As I tell the people in my office, when you're a performer and the curtain goes up and the lights go on, it's no longer the time to kind of like try to think whether you're ready or not. You just do what you need to do. And same thing here. Once I send it over to you, I have that one shot. So I should just be as direct as possible, as best as possible, versus trying to kind of like skirt through the whole thing, because otherwise it wouldn't be effective at all, right? Exactly. The whole point. And even if you declined, well, it wasn't quite so direct,
For sure.
Right? And you could use
it. Instead of talking up to them in real life with all the people looking at you.
Exactly.
It's a safe cushion.
Right. So that's really super interesting. Now, Dion is short for something, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's another long Greek name.
So why Dion?
It's from Dionysus, which is the Greek god of going out and wine and, socializing in a sense. So when we started creating a social app that merges the digital with going out, etc., we're like, there is nothing better, than going back to our roots. My co-founder is also Greek, Cypriot. We felt it very personal.
Right. Well, that's and Dionysus is actually a very important god to the Greeks,
one of
right?
The
it's the because it's one of those times as well where it's the feast and you literally need to celebrate. With wine and it's not some of the other Greek gods are a little bit you're a little bit afraid of, but Dionysus is one that really encourages. Yeah, exactly. So although I have to say I'm not going to say it online, but the after effect of so when I went to NYU, I had a really great Greek professor. He talked to us all about the gods, etc. And then there's a part after the celebration which nobody else talks about, and that's actually the more interesting part. Anyway, what should we look towards in terms of Dion and you? What's next for you?
The next thing for me is Dion. At this point, this is my whole life. If you are starting a company, in the beginning, I think you never realize how much this becomes your full life and how much work it is. You're like, yeah, of course, I'm going to work hard. I used to work hard in all my career. And then you realize that this is actually becomes your life.
No, you live and breathe. It consumes you.
There are no lines. Yeah. Everything is blurred. But to be honest, this is so refreshing.
Yeah.
Because I remember the days I was working in a corporate office and it was Sunday and I would be like, oh, who's going to work tomorrow?
Right.
Even if I loved my work and I loved my company. Now I'm like, yes, tomorrow action. People will reply to my emails. We'll make progress. Yay. So it's very exciting.
Also, I think the thing about having your own company is that everything is a reflection of you, which is good and bad. There are days when it really feels very good, and there are days when it feels not so good. Because for instance, assumptions. You make assumptions about what people would like, and then you realize I'm completely off. People don't like that, and I didn't even realize that. And if that's the foundation of a lot of the things that you were deciding on, it becomes very problematic. Or things that. Apparently I'm the only one that likes a certain thing and nobody else, right? That's another thing, And so it's sort of like an up and down, but it's invigorating in a lot of ways because in the end, it's about you, it's about yourself, and it's about building something, especially in this category of building community. I know we all say in today's world that we're all building communities, but the reality is that there's a lot of big organizations that are dividing communities and not really bringing them together, right? Or the first thought was, oh, we're all like, in Instagram or Facebook. The idea was we're all going to be connected. You're going to see somebody you haven't seen in 30 years and you're going to be connected. But there's so much vitriol and negative, comments and all of that stuff these days that's stoked by all sorts of different things, and the algorithm makes it even worse because it really panders to your subjectivity, your prejudices, your all of this stuff, and it puts you in a tunnel vision that community becomes really not the focal point. And in this world, where the whole world is one community, and as you know, as you go through the different countries, the best way to really have peace is to get to know the people who are there, which I think Dion nicely sort of like falls into. So good luck to you. Yeah, go ahead.
I think also the future is about communities because, like you said, when Facebook and all the other apps started, we didn't know what to expect, and it was super useful and super helpful. But as we all became connected, then the noise started. So yes, there is a reason why you haven't been connected for 30 years with that person. Maybe because you are not compatible anymore. So it's not it shouldn't be necessarily part of your life because it's noise. So as technology evolves and AI comes to the play, which is one of the most important, if not the most important, in the tech world, revolution, let's say, the communities is the future. This is what is going to move culture, and communities that are concentrated and people can actually connect and take something meaningful out of it, except of noise and fatigue and feeling bad about the rejection that happens out there, is very important for the consumer, but also for the brands. And we see that because we didn't touch that, and I'll be very brief, but we see that also for the brands that we work with. Now, influencer marketing has so many challenges. There is so much noise. There are so many fake followers. There is no return on investment. So brands are looking into a much more effective channel to reach individuals. So they reach through communities. For example, we're on board in one of the biggest run clubs in New York. You are Adidas or Nike. Instead of putting, a billboard on Times Square, you can actually advertise and
directly
give
to them.
Exactly, directly to the people that run every day, not the people that are surfing.
That's part of the issue with influencers. It's right. You could have followers, but those followers don't necessarily buy the products or use the products.
It's not convert.
Yeah, so it's not exactly the same, and that's why I always tell people like, okay, I can have 1 million views, but what does that mean business wise? Sometimes. There's sort of like that disconnect. But there's another thing that I think, and I'm going to sort of like end it, with this one, which is that I am envisioning a day where people are arguing online and I say, you know what? Here, have a drink.
Have a drink on me.
Yeah, have a drink on me, and we become friends, right?
Yes.
So I think this is a really, really great thing. Well, thanks again, Revekka, for giving us a peek into the world of Dion and the community that you're building. Good luck, congratulations. We're looking forward, to seeing this grow globally.
Definitely.
And so, but tune in next week for a special conversation with Charlie Rao about music, the pursuit of simplicity, patience, and quietude. On behalf of everyone at Global Wealth Office and Classic Modern, this is Loy Carlos wishing you peace and good wealth.